As Hudson Card and the Texas Longhorns prepare to take on Arkansas this weekend, I want to take a few minutes and talk about what Hudson Card needs to do to help Texas offense put themselves in the best position possible, and then what to expect from Arkansas's defense. So today we're going to spend the majority of the time looking at Arkansas's defense and kind of going over the defensive scheme, the defensive format they had against Rice whenever Rice was in passing downs, because Rice's offense is much more different than Texas' offense, but when they're in passing down, it's a bit more spread, so it's a little more comparable to what Texas runs, even though it's not exactly that RPO scheme, but at least is all that we have to watch on film. So we're going to watch some Arkansas defense, and then we're going to look at one clip that Hudson Card throws that I think will kind of demonstrate the ability of why I think he can have success against Arkansas's defense. And if you want more throws of Card, I put out a Hudson Card video just a few days ago going over his throws from Louisiana, so if you're interested, you can go check that out. But before we dive into more of the film, before we dive into Arkansas's defense, I just want to encourage y'all to consider subscribing to the channel if you like any quarterback-related content. So let's talk Arkansas's defense, because they didn't show much against Rice. They were pretty kind of basic, if you will. I don't mean to be too rude, but they didn't show a lot of kind of their more advanced defensive schemes, at least I don't think, against Rice. It was a lot of four-man line, four-man front, and you had 7 guys in the backfield or 7 guys dropping back. Sometimes they would only bring 3 with 8 guys coming. You didn't really see a lot of blitzing, so they try to keep it pretty basic against Rice. End up forcing 3 interceptions, and it worked out well. But you're going to see in the videos a lot of passing lanes, a lot of holes that Texas could potentially take advantage of, and I expect Sark already scheming up. Can't talk. I also want to mention that Arkansas is probably going to have a much more defensive game plan against Texas than they did against Rice. I don't think they wanted to show Texas too much. Could be wrong, but I don't expect them to do the same thing they did against Rice against Texas, because you're going to see not a lot of blitzing, not a lot of pressure as far as like blitzing pressure. They got some pressure from the 4-man line, but hopefully Texas does not allow that pressure with this 4 guys rushing. Let's look at the stats real quick before we dive into the defensive film. Let's look at the stats that Arkansas's defense did against Rice. So take with a grain of salt, but the Rice quarterbacks were 17 out of 35, 227 yards passing, 3 picks, 1 touchdown, 6.5 yards per attempt passing. They also, Arkansas had, 2 sacks and 5 quarterback hurries. So just kind of the stats against Rice, again, take it with a grain of salt, but there wasn't a lot of passing success against Arkansas's defense. But again, I think you're going to see a much different offense. A much different defense from Arkansas against Texas this week. But again, all we have to go off is the game against Rice. So let's go ahead and look at what they did against Rice to see if we can take away some things, and I'll catch you on the back end and kind of talk about what Card probably needs to do to be successful against this Arkansas defense. So here's a 3rd and 9 for Arkansas against Rice here, and we see that Arkansas is going to drop 8 guys back into coverage here. It's going to be a zone here, and so you basically got 3 up top defenders, almost making like a little umbrella, if you will. And so they all drop back. They kind of have their thirds, and then you have off coverage as well. So if Arkansas does this against Texas, which I don't think they'll do because they need to get pressure, but if they do this against Texas, there's going to be plenty of holes here for Hudson Card and for Steve Sarkisian and these passing down situations. Oop, I was wrong. They bring 4, but still that doesn't matter. You have 5 guys to protect here, and then the Rice quarterback ends up throwing a dump off here. But you can see there's pockets throughout this zone. If I was going to rewind it, there's pockets in the zone that came open here. You have man right here with the running back, and he ends up going there. But Arkansas will need to get pressure on Card. I don't anticipate them dropping that many guys back into coverage on passing downs. I could be completely wrong, of course, just because there are so many zones and so many holes to be able to hit. But again, this is an example of what Arkansas did against Rice in one of their passing downs. So here is a 3rd and 5. So again, it's a passing down here. We got 4 Arkansas linemen down with their hands on the ground. They only bring 4. They drop back 7 to coverage. And again, just like the last video, you almost have like a kind of an umbrella approach right here with 3 up top DBs. Then you got DBs top of the screen playing off coverage as well here. So there's going to be passing lanes here. There's going to be zones here. Again, I don't know if Arkansas is going to be this far off coverage against Texas receivers, but this is what we have to go off against Rice. Snap the ball here. We'll see. They give up all this here, right? And so there's going to be passing lanes. There's passing lanes here. Obviously, he gets pressure here. Not able to complete the pass here, but the example of there being passing lanes and then playing off line of scrimmage is something that is the point of the video here and the point of breaking this down. Again, I don't know if it'll be exactly that against Texas. If it is, Coach Sark and Hudson Card will take advantage of that. So I envision it to be a little bit different, but again, this is what we have to go off of right now. So here's another passing down at 2nd and 11. Again, same
exact look. They don't do a lot to disguise you on the pre-snap. The only thing that I've seen so far of them, really trying to disguise you is sometimes they'll have all guys with their hands on the ground. Sometimes they have a guy standing to try to confuse the quarterback if he's going to drop into coverage or not. But again, we have 4 guys that end up coming. We have 3 up top DBs here. Another kind of basic cover 3 scheme, taking their thirds, and then your DBs already set with like curl flats here with the backers as well. This ends up being a pick. Pressure gets to the quarterback here, but again, you see this potential zones and potential pockets everywhere here. But pressure gets here, force him to throw a pick. But with Coach Sarkisian and Hudson Card, I imagine they'll be game planning ways to attack those holes there. Again, if that's what Arkansas presents, and like we talked about earlier in the video, I could very well see them trying to hide what they want to do against Texas, which is why they were kind of quote unquote basic against Rice here. So again, try not to get redundant here, but this is the look Arkansas gave Rice in a lot of these passing downs, right? 3 up top DBs, kind of some cover 3 schemes. This one's a slightly different than the other schemes that we've watched because you got kind of press man here as opposed to off coverage, but still very similar. You got 4 guys coming, and you kind of have this umbrella type look. There should be some zones to hit here that we've talked about. So just another example here. Pressure ends up getting to the quarterback here. You would hope that Texas 5 can block the Arkansas's 4, especially if they keep it back in 6 on 4. Excuse me. But a good job by Arkansas getting pressure here. So this is something for Hudson Card and the Texas offense to be aware of. So here's a slightly different defensive formation that Arkansas presents, but still very similar to what we've been watching. You got 4 guys that are going to end up coming here. You actually have 1 up top safety as opposed to 3, but still off zone. You can't see the corner on the top of the screen, and you can't see the safety top here, but you still have a zone to this side of the screen with the receiver coming inch in a bunch kind of formation. The DB comes in as well in this man here. So this is going to be an interception from the Rice quarterback throwing the ball to the left side of the field. The ball hangs and floats a long throw, but throwing a deep out route into this type of coverage probably is not something you would recommend throwing there. But again, just a semi-different look, but honestly similar scheme to at least the right side of the field that Arkansas had here. And again, they only bring 4 balls out and just an interception for the Arkansas DB. So here's a 1st and 10 here. It's a touchdown pass for the Rice quarterback here. The reason I want to show this video is for the simple fact, even though they're in 12 personnel, it's a simple fact. Look what the defense does with the threat of the run. So it's a play action pass here. The defense comes in, and that keeps the safety biting in as well. And so if Texas gets the run game going, which with Robinson, the chance of that is likely, then you have a lot of potential deep balls to go off after this. Look at this. This is 8 guys here. I count this as 8 guys in the box. Sure, he's not quite technically in the box, but due to this, I'm going to go ahead and count him in the box. So you basically got 8 guys in the box within 4 or 5 yards of line of scrimmage. That's a recipe to take a deep shot here. So with Robinson, I expect there to be some play calls like this, and if they can get Arkansas out of position like they did here, and with the up top safety who you can't see, then we could see plays like this, wide open receiver for Rice, touchdown down the field. So this is the only clip I'm going to show of Card, because I actually just put out a video breakdown of the game against Louisiana a few days ago, so you can go back and find that, and you'll see a lot of his throws and see how they fit in against the defense we just saw of Arkansas. But I want to show this one, even though it's a 3rd and 6 essentially, because it shows the ability to fit the ball in tight spaces and tight windows. And we saw if Arkansas comes out and only brings 4 and drops back 7 to even or even 8 guys, there's going to be plenty of hole shots there. And so you see Card's ability to fit the ball into tight space here, but it's not just because of his arm strength, which he does have. It's because of the anticipation factor. Ball coming out now, and he's able to fit the ball into a pretty tight space here. And so I think if Arkansas comes out with that same defense they have against Texas, then these type of throws will be there and be there often for Card in the Texas offense. But again, if you want to go back and see some more of his throws, we put out a video a few days ago going into a bit more detail there. So just to reiterate, the Arkansas defense is probably going to look a lot different this Saturday against Texas than they did against Rice. But that's all we have to go off of, and that's the passing downs and kind of the spread look. That's what we have to go off of. They had
three safeties, essentially, or three DBs up top, kind of making that umbrella and kind of preventing anything going deep is kind of how they attacked Rice. And again, I think it'll be much different against Texas because Texas can hit those holes, have those zone shots throughout the field. So I think for Texas, get the running game going, of course, give Bijan Robinson the ball, and then once he gets going, that's when you're going to set up some deep shots because like we saw in the video, that's even what Rice was able to do. It got Arkansas out of position, and they were able to hit that deep ball. So I think Hudson Card and the Texas offense can probably end up doing the same. I think Sark's probably already schemed that up. Get the run game going. It sounds simple, but I think the game plan probably is simple. Get the run game going, hit the shots that come up, and then just kind of dominate the game offensively. But I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the Arkansas defense? What do you think Hudson Card and Texas offense needs to do to have success against the Arkansas defense? Let me know in the comments below. We'll see you next time in the next quarterback-related video.